Welcome back to another episode of Nydal. I've been doing quite a bit of work off camera, actually. This whole sort of shoreline that you see on the screen right now at the bottom, well, never mind, it's gone. I've been tweeting some screenshots if you want to go check them out. I've also posted them on the Discord server, which many of you already found the link to. It's been kind of secretly added to the description of the videos, but it's now been public for everyone to access for the last, I would say, 3-4 weeks. So if you really want to join the rest of the community, make sure to, well, look for the link in the description. But yeah, in this episode, man, we're gonna work on that little island that you see to the right of the screen, and as I'm sure you can guess from, well, not so much from the thumbnail, unless I changed the thumbnail from the time of this recording to when I actually post this video. But I wanted to, or I guess, yeah, I wanted to sort of show the surrounding areas. And yeah, we're gonna be building a citadel or fortified city or something along those lines. That's actually what I'm gonna be aiming for. And one of the first things that I wanted to do is have this like pretty awesome bridge leading into it. I sort of started working with these props. I actually tried a whole bunch of different types of bridges. I also, you know, one of the main reasons why I ended up not picking this one that you saw on the screen a second ago is because we've actually used that asset many times before. So I wanted something a bit more unique. And I've been sort of trying all kinds of different combinations from the mini bridge pieces that are part of my asset collection. And I ended up settling with a network-based bridge that is actually a rail bridge by Revo. And you're gonna see it in a minute here. The problem is, being a rail bridge, it's kind of hard to, you know, have cars drive on it, or even have pedestrians walking on it. So here's a bridge in question. And I also wanted the bridge, by the way, to be kind of curvy, entering the Citadel sort of area. But before I get too far into the details of this bridge and the actual Citadel, let me tell you that this is sort of the inspiration where this came from. This is Mount Saint-Michel in France. But it's not just Mount Saint-Michel. There's also, these are all places that I visited. This is actually footage of mine, obviously not this Google Maps view, but this is Saint-Malo, which is not too far from Mount Saint-Michel, relatively speaking. These are like fortified cities right on the coast, and I'm kind of like combining these two concepts sort of together. Even though Mount Saint-Michel is kind of its own city, but this build is actually going to be relatively large. So yeah, that's basically where the idea came from. Feel free to look it up on Google Maps if you want to, you know, get deeper and see the details. I think there's even Street View inside many of these places. And yeah, talking about the bridge, as I was saying, I wanted something to curve so that it looked a bit more or a bit less man-made. I mean, it's a bridge, right? It's of course it's man-made, but I don't know, just we've been using like all these like perfect bridges pretty much throughout the city, and I wanted to make something different, so I just decided to, hey, let's give this a shot and have a curved bridge. And pretty much everything that just adding all the details that make it look good as a curved bridge. Now, the main issue with this particular asset is that, as you can see, I'm trying to like align the whole bridge so that there's enough detail in it. But it was, I basically had to overlay this invisible road so that people can walk in and out of this citadel and appear as if they're using this bridge, even though it's just a train bridge. So as far as the game is concerned, there's no connection between these 2 points, aside from this invisible road that I've basically tinkered for quite a bit of time until I got it somewhat right. There's still, you know, the classic City Skylines glitches where when you have like nodes that are kind of close together, you get cars sort of driving up and down in the air. You've probably seen that a million times, especially on my videos. And I think in the cinematics at the end, you're going to see a couple of those weird shenanigans that cars in City Skylines do. But for the most part, this is working fine. As I start putting down the sort of the main buildings in this island, there's a lot of people coming in from the tram stop that is like very close by. And I think, so by the way, the assets that I'm going to be using, the castle assets, are by Revo. Sorry, not by Revo, by Titan. By Titan. Yes, I can't English. And they're great. He actually, so they're based off of a castle in Germany, from what I understand. I even looked it up on Google Maps to see if I could get some ideas, but I kind of wanted to go a different direction because obviously the actual castle, it's in the middle of land. It's not like on an island or something like that, or a peninsula, as is, or at the end of the peninsula, as is the case here. But the whole asset, as you can see, is like one big piece, but also he released separate pieces, and those are the ones that you can like put together in any way you want, and that's basically what I'm going to be doing. I first wanted the main building just to be sort of off center. Basically, this whole thing, I wanted to make it look not super symmetric, because I feel like old buildings of this kind are not necessarily that symmetric. They're just, kind of go all over the place. They're as if, there was like very little planning when they were actually constructed, and they probably added more buildings as time went by. And one thing I gotta tell you is that you probably noticed that this video is labeled part 1. Well, it's a big build, so it's not gonna be finished at the end of this episode, but hopefully if everything goes well, I might be able to finish this in the next one, so stay tuned for that. This first episode is mostly going to be focused on laying down the internal roads, getting most of the buildings done. A few details will indeed be added here, and continuing sort of the work that I did off camera, I sort of like terraformed the shorelines across, or at least in the surrounding areas of Nydal, so they look a little bit more detail. All I did is basically what I'm doing now is just flatten out the edges where the mountain sort of meets the water, so that there's like a much nicer gradient, and together with the sand texture, just, I don't know, it makes everything look a little bit more cohesive. We do have some giant cliffs that land on the water. I'm not a huge fan of that because it doesn't look super realistic. I mean, if you have it in certain places like here and there, that's fine, but if literally every single coast that you have in your city is just like a giant cliff, I don't know. I don't particularly, it's rare to see that in nature. So you do want to have some kind of like slow kind of gradient. Mostly just the area where erosion sort of occurs, if you think about it in those terms. I mean, I'm not a geologist or anything, but where the water meets the land, there is a bit of a transition period, if you will, and that's what I basically did throughout the city, or at least the areas near the city. I didn't like detail the whole map or anything like that, but yeah. In any case, I'm going on a super long tangent here that is not critical to what I'm doing on the screen. So there's one road that sort of comes down to the water's edge. In fact, there's this road, this Paris road, that's a kind of a wide cobblestone road that looks great, actually. This beautiful asset that sort of surrounds all of the seawalls. And I've sort of opted for these not super like old looking seawalls, like they don't look like castles or anything like that. They're pretty generic concrete ones. They do have a bit of a stained, like, I don't know, texture to it that makes it look a little bit older. Honestly, from all the assets that I had, this is the best one that worked together with this design. I might change it in the future if I find something that works better, but I think I think it works totally fine the way it is. And another thing, this is something weird that I tried. I don't know if I'm actually gonna keep this. So what I did here is I just set up some endpoints for tunnels, so that there's the idea that there's like underground like connections that basically, well, connect the different points of the island, because obviously roads don't go all over the place, especially in this game where the fidelity, the resolution of the land is so small that you really can't have a whole lot of leeway in terms of whenever you put down a road, it just terraforms everything around it, and it just creates like really sharp edges, and if you even push it further enough, it just starts creating all these like black spots. You've probably seen them a million times if you use Move It and you like put roads together. It just doesn't look great. So because I couldn't fit thinner roads, like having thin roads is kind of like the holy grail of this game. So I just decided to add a bit more detail to the landscape by keeping it and not having a road surround the whole thing by just adding tunnels. When I first put that together, I don't know, I thought it was a good idea and I kind of liked it. I still kind of do. You're going to see it again in the cinematics at the end how it comes out, because I did end up spending a few moments there to make it look a bit more realistic. Because right now it's just a tunnel with the freaking vents and everything. Doesn't look particularly like it belongs, but again, it could be like newer sort of maintenance tunnels for the people maintaining this Citadel. Because from what I had in mind is that this is actually still part of the city. It's not like a tourist destination as maybe it is Mount Saint Michel, even though there's like actual people that live in there. But like Saint Malo, for example, you can just drive in and out. It's a city. It's like open 24/7. And talking about graphic glitches, or at least terrain sort of glitches, I was trying to put these different types of buildings, this darker roof. Well, yeah, I don't know exactly what they are. They're on their castle when I was searching them using Find It, but they do sort of lift the land quite significantly to one of the directions. And I ended up with those like tiny islands, and I figured, okay, maybe we can use these to our advantage and detail them a little bit. And I started working on that. As you can see, I'm also using these like surface networked pieces that, oh man, they're so flexible. I love them. I'm probably going to be using those just all over the place. I already have, but I'm just going to use it even more now. But those little islands, at some point I realized that this doesn't quite work. In fact, those French that French gate asset from Forger, I think it is. By the way, these are all places that I actually been to, which is kind of amazing. A lot of inspiration actually came from many of those places, not just France, but like Sweden as well. But in this case, particularly France, as I illustrated with the clips that I actually recorded myself earlier in this episode. Anyways, I ended up not going forward with those little islands. I ended up just you can still see them on the screen, but in a moment here, I think I'm gonna remove it. I don't know if I actually recorded that. I think I did, but we'll see. In the meantime, we also have a lot of height differences inside of this structure. So I try to like have this tiered sort of design here with a little bit of grass and just some stairs so that it looks a little bit more united and connected, if that makes any sense. Just sort of setting up what will be future detailing in the next episode, most likely, where I'm gonna go in and add like picnic tables, umbrellas, just basically make it look like a vibrant part of the city. And another thing that I have no clue what to do is what's gonna happen on the other side of this island, on the other side of this massive bridge that we have entering here. I might just continue a bit of an old town sort of design. By the way, this is me using the terraforming networks to see if I could get rid of it. And I did end up getting rid of it, together with a little bit of terraforming here and there. But yeah, that's pretty much how it's going to end up looking like. So as I was saying, I don't know what I'm gonna do on the other side of the bridge. I have a few ideas, and I think I'm mostly gonna stick to this sort of theme. There are probably gonna be some buildings and obviously some parking spaces, because those are necessary. In fact, in the clip that I included from Saint Malo, there's quite a bit of parking spaces there, so it's not like completely unheard of. I'm mostly getting my parking inspiration from that, if that makes any sense. And over here, I'm just trying to like fix that little gap that gets generated when you connect networks that sort of end at different height levels. I don't know exactly what's up with that. I thought that was like automatically like connected by the game, but yeah, mixing some networks sometimes just causes some like unexpected behaviors. And honestly, I'm kind of taking advantage of that by just having you know, I added a few decals here and there to make it a little bit more rough, almost as if it was kind of on purpose, that looks like that. Not on purpose, but just like, it looks like, oh, okay, this is a different piece of asphalt because the city workers just came in and like fixed it. There was a pothole and now it just looks like a different texture kind of thing. Because they, I don't know, let's say they didn't have enough budget to put back the old cobblestone or whatever, or it's just a temporary fix that eventually is going to get fixed. But you do have variation in the textures of the pavement in general, and that's sort of, you know, trying to use a limitation of the game to my advantage to actually add more detail to the different areas, especially the roads that tend to be a little bit more repetitive. And as we move over to this other side of the island, I just sort of continue adding more buildings and a lot of these concrete walls to sort of bridge the different height levels. Man, this is, if there's one thing that's just a lot of work in Nydal in general, it's just addressing all these height differences. I feel like I end up always using sort of the same technique, which is super effective. So why wouldn't I not use it? But it's always like a lot of work to make everything look nice, and I end up using a lot of props and a lot of networks, which is great. This is part of the whole thing, but I find myself like repeating things over and over again constantly, and you know, I'm trying to like push myself to try different things, and I think even though for the most part I'm using the same techniques, I am trying a few unique things in this build, and hopefully once we're done with the detail aspect of it, of this episode, I'll probably have some more conclusions on that, and maybe some ideas for you to do in your own cities. I do end up really enjoying this contrast between the red roof buildings and the black roof buildings, though I kind of forgot because I don't use it too often, but I could have saved myself a lot of time and trouble if I converted many of these buildings to procedural objects, mostly so that they don't force the terrain, not because I want to necessarily modify them. I'm not very good at modifying buildings in using procedural objects, but yeah, not having the terrain be pushed up by the building itself is actually kind of a good thing, or just at least makes it relatively easy to detail things. And finally, I'm just setting up another road right here. That tunnel, like I said, doesn't connect to anything. It's just a dummy sort of prop that makes it look so as if there's a road sort of going underneath the main sort of castle area. But honestly, it doesn't go anywhere. In any case, we're kind of approaching the end of this episode. Sorry, I may have been talking a little faster in this video because I just had a lot of coffee. And yeah, usually when that happens, I just go on weird tangents constantly, and I feel like I've done better on this one as opposed to other ones, but still, I feel like I trip over my words way more than I usually do. But yeah, this is pretty much it for this part of the build. Here's a before and after, pretty dramatic before and after of how that whole island is now shaped and what it's looking like. If you enjoyed this episode, and if you're excited about part 2, make sure to give this video a like. And if you're new to the channel and haven't already, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified next time I post a video. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.